what's going on? Devlin here, aka The Scholar, bringing you guys the first of many great nature deck profiles that will be here on the channel. So in particular today we'll be focused on Bigbelly, and without further ado, let's get into it.
Wait. Before we get into today's video, I need to give a quick shout out to today's sponsor, Kingslayer Cards. Go check out their website, which will be in the link in the description down below. And they provide all your TCG needs, especially for CardfightVanguard. And check out for the upcoming events that they'll be hosting throughout their schedule. Hope to see you guys at some of them.
So first, we kind of want to play our V-starters. You have to have a really good excuse not to play a V-starter, I feel, nowadays. Like, only very few have to, like, access to, like, the superior ride, like the Dragonic Descendant for Narukami, and the one that lets you superior ride into the Dieliner for DP. So just those superior rides, ones that kind of like give you the unfair advantage, and the best of ones are kind of the best starters to run if you're not running a V-starter. So definitely play a V-starter if your clan doesn't have access to something broken like that, because, you know, just a free +2 going second and a free +1 going first is really good. So the start of the deck, for famous Professor Bigbelly. I could go on and on about this card. I feel that he, over time, has unfortunately outpaced Isabel. Going off of our like support we've recently got, it's still been like really retire focused, so he just gains value over time for more retire effects that we get for new V support. For those that don't know what Bigbelly does, every time a rear guard is retired on either player's turn, one of our rear guards is retired by opponent's card effect or your card effect, or during the end phase. So in the battle phase and end phase, you get to draw a card. And so like Crayon Tiger will double draws because you draw off the Crayon Tiger skill, and then you'll draw off Bigbellies. And so this kind of lets you amass a hand to allow you to survive and sustain the game for long periods of time. So once you kind of hit the mid game, you can force it to go late game because you'll survive a lot of your opponent's multi-attack combos and stuff like that. So you're able just to live and progress the game to the late game where Great Nature thrives. And that's where I think like this card particularly is the best building kind of route to go with Great Nature at the moment. His ride-up skill isn't particularly too important though, like, because you're trying to grade 2 game and just get the first ride. But for his ride-up skill, it's counterblast 1. You can choose one of your rear guards that's 20,000 power or greater, and you know, you get to restand it. But you really don't get this effect off much because either your opponent just doesn't give you the plethora of CB because you rather use the CB on our next grade 3, and just being able to extend a multi-attack with those options instead of just restanding one rear guard that's kind of meh on a ride-up turn. Our next grade 3 is Magical Science Tester Fox. So this was out of the latest clan collection that we got, and I really have to say that this is a fantastic card. What Bushiroad has allowed us to give us is more solving our issues of deck out, because we draw so much inside Bigbelly because he doubles our draw triggers naturally, or doubles our draw effects naturally. He's able to counterblast 1 and send 2 cards from our drop zone on the bottom of our deck. If one was a trigger and a normal unit, you're able to call an Illusion Scientist Researcher Fox from rear guard to your deck, or from your deck to rear guard. And so, and he gets +5k, and then his other effect is Soul Blast 1. You can give a unit 10k, and then at the end of the turn, retire that unit. And if the card retired by this effect was the Researcher Fox grade 2, you're allowed to draw a card. So with Bigbelly on board, again, that's a draw 2 for a Soul Blast. It's really, really strong, really, really effective. The fact that he's able just to return triggers and stuff back to deck is just very valuable. So it helps even our Sipticom turns to be more dangerous and stuff. And the fact that you're just able to free reshuffle with a couple cards in here is just really, really good. I wouldn't really want to play any other card right now, and I'm glad I really found the room for 3 just because this card's so potent. And then 2 Talented Rhinos. I wish we had kind of more room to play this card, but then at the same time, I find this card's like playability on the decline, just because just Great Nature's kind of at a weird spot in the meta where everything gets hate bared. And so if it's not the Rhino because it's being protected with the lesser rider, then it's the Crayon Tigers getting hit, so with the removal pieces. So it's just very hard overall to find a best way to keep Rhino alive on board, to have it be the pressure piece that Great Nature's always had. And then like Zoa combos become obsolete because of the new PGG guards, or the new the PGG guards and the Elementaria Sanctitude order that every deck now just kind of has access to. It just kind of made it, you know, this card less of the finisher that it was, but it's still a really good card. Still, you know, it's great in combination with Calidrius, our new Stride from our premium collection. 2022, and it's just, you know, overall been very fantastic pieces to, you know, apply more pressure and do stuff, and still is a good card, but I feel I can definitely see in the future this being cut eventually. Next on to our grade 2s. Playing 4 copies of Blusher Parquet. I see some people still trying to argue for like the compass line strategy. I'm not too big on it, just because this more times than not, if you miss, it doesn't feel as bad as you missing a piece for compass line, just because it's a dead card really after grade 2. And sure, it saves you in some matchups that don't gain power on the rear guard, but most of the time, like the decks like that are trying to grade 2 game, like Eradicators, if they're not playing the Superior Ride package, or Spike Brothers or other decks like that, they just out grade 2 game you, and they gain power over the 13k, so like the defensive buffer that compass line would provide is just kind of negated, and so you just kind of have this body that sits there that forces you to retire cards. So if you're trying to have a board that sticks to continue to grade 2 game pressure your opponent, it dies over time, and then it forces you to play like bad cards, kind of like Mike, that are 5k shields. So then with you gaining all this extra cards in hand, they're just 5k shields, so they don't really help you defend and prolong to the long game. And that's why I think just overall that Blusher Parquet's better, because it's just a free on-ride CB, check toss 7 for a grade 3, finds you a Heel Guardian, a Belly, a Tester Fox, or a Rhino, and that's like a big chunk of your percentage of your deck. So I think Blusher Parquet's absolutely fine. Wishing I could play more, but this is the room we kind of have right now. It's 3 Crayon Tiger, so you're still able to just combo, go like Calendaria, multiple Rhino restand, get draws off the Crayon Tiger effects. This card's still a mainstay of Great Nature. If you're not playing this card, you kind of need a really good reason not to be. Every single variant of Great Nature plays it, whether it be Isabel, Bigbelly, Leopold, Hamsters, any of those decks, which will all be profiled on the channel, but all of them will have a Crayon Tiger, just because it's been a staple since on release. And I'm just really glad that they kind of gave it the nice triple R or 4-link, even though I prefer the double R. You guys will probably see me go back and forth between the arts. Even though I like to keep this deck high rarity, I kind of do like the nostalgia of just the double R Crayon Tigers, but triple Rs are in for now. For those that don't know what this card does, it's a Counterblast 1. When this unit attacks a Vanguard, this has to be boosted and attacking a Vanguard. You can choose one of your rear guards, restand it, gets plus 4k. At the end of the turn, draw a card and retire that unit. So you draw a card and then you retire the unit. With Bigbelly on board, you draw an additional card, like I said before. And so it just allows you, gain advantage, build pressure, and do other stuff. Just the thing that like sucks about this, and especially like removal focused matchups, like Nubatama can abuse this. So like if you don't, like if you swing the Rhino, they'll just go into the G guard that lets you snap something from the back row. So then you just snap the booster behind Crayon Tiger, then the Crayon Tiger like column's negated. And there's ways to play around it, but it's just still very awkward, because most of the times than not, if you're doing the Tiger restand with Rhino, you've already swung with your Vanguard to give your Rhino potentially a crit off the drive check. So it's just, again, it's very awkward, but this card's still phenomenal. Alrighty, you guys saw this in the thumbnail, but 2 of this promo. So we were kind of waiting on this promo, Delicate Beauty Maiden Calendaria. So what this card does is, you're like, Devlin, this builds tokens, we're not Neonectar, why are we playing this? So this card says at the end of your turn, you retire this card, you pop it, so you'll draw with Bigbelly, and you create 2 plant tokens, right? So you create the 2 plant tokens. Well, Bigbelly has this skill where it says when during either player's turn when your rear guard is retired. So in combination with this, Bigbelly, and a G guard, which I can pull out right now, which is Ardillo, you kind of have this thing where you can turn a Guarantee Ardillo into a +2 if you have the ride up and G guard option. So you'll draw. Most of the time you have a Texture Fox, so you'll be able to draw again. So this just allows you to be like a draw 3 on the defensive for 1 G guard, so allowing you to +2 defensively on your opponent's turn is very strong without being at GB1, where most of the time the only ways you're hard plussing on your opponent's turn is with a Spangled. So giving you access now to something a little bit better, and not as punishing into the Narukami matchup, because you're generating these tokens that will just disappear once they go into the bind zone, is really nice. And then we play the options to get these tokens a little bit bigger. And this card was just really nice and a great option, I think, for Bigbelly moving forward. I don't think 4 of is necessary though, and I kind of like this flex spot at 2. Then what would the Tester Fox be without the Researcher Fox? So we play one of this. If it goes into damage, it sucks and you're just kind of mad, but I think this is the correct option. Just being able to fetch, pop it, and then continuously recycling it if that's what you want to do to call it. This card's really funny during Man of Armor turns on the stride turn, because it will get a free 20k if it's on an additional rearguard circle, because its first effect is when your card is discarded from your deck, you will get plus 5k. So this thing just becomes on an Excel 2 a 34, excuse me, and on an Excel 1 a 39. So just again very strong. And then when it's retired by your card's ability, I can counterblast one and search up one copy of a card with the same card name on my Vanguard circle. So it can let me go get another Bigbelly for some niche situations where we do kind of have like the Zoa line. We can set up for the half Zoa combo next turn. So this card's really, really good, and I'm really glad that I was able to kind of play it at the 1-of slot and not be really punished for it. Then onto the grade ones. Playing 4 mini belly. You just want the on-ride consistency. Finding your grade 3 pieces to have you have a good ride up turn or live, like find the heal guardians to live, is a very sustainable and important part of this deck. So you just want the ride consistency there. And he's a 13k booster, so he helps you make numbers against like Protect and Oxel decks. And so him just being there is just good. But he's a generic V searcher, checked off 5 for a grade 3, and then his condition to get the 5k is during your turn. If I have a unit on an additional rearguard circle, he lets me, he gets 5k and to become a 13k booster. Then we have 2 copies of Expert Grader Natsubi. This card I've seen get bounced list. I know I've been talking to a lot of people on Twitter and then testing, just trying to figure out like what are the best cards that work. This card's nice because it's a 10k shield, but it also provides some nice like on hit pressure going second. That lets you get a +2, and then if they hit the attack, you just plus again off the drive check. So you've seen 3 cards in your opening turn, technically 4 if you include the draw. But this card's just really nice pressure. And then if it's retired by my card's ability, if I have a Bigbelly if I have Vanguard with Bigbelly in its card name, I can just countercharge. So it's just free countercharge, no cost, no potential deck out, just free draw card countercharge. Very strong. Then 2 Pangolin. This card's still good. This card lets you set up for your Septicon kill turns, which I can explain, once I get into kind of the G zone and stuff. But this card is GB locked, and so when it's placed on rearguard during my main phase, I can choose one of my other rearguards, and it says at the end of the battle that it attacked, it gets the red text. If it attacks the Vanguard and its power is 20,000 or more, I can soul charge one, choose a card from my damage zone, and countercharge it. So this effect is mandatory, so please keep that in mind when you're swinging out with Rhinos, that you will have to soul charge every time it attacks, and it attacks a Vanguard. So the only way you kind of avoid that is if you have to like bully your rear, your opponent hits the OT or whatever. But like this is mandatory, so you just kind of have to be like cautious of it because you're drawing so much, then the extra soul charge may like hurt you. But it is a very good card to help you set up for some kill combos. And I have 2 Deli Belly. This is a really good PG. It's slept on. Being able to countercharge during your opponent's turn and drawing a card just to kind of refund the PG is really nice in a way. So you're only -1 instead of -2. It is a Soul Blast though, so again, that's kind of why Pangolin is still important. There's some like random Soul Blast costs that if you're not like managing your soul right, you kind of get punished for it. But it's still really good. I really just like having the PG options for this deck, so I think that this card's very, very undervalued and should be played more. And then 1 Elementaria Sanctitude. If you're not, I don't know, I don't want to say if you're not playing this card, you're wrong, because some decks kind of want like the 4 draw PGs because they discard a lot, like Riviera in some decks. But this card I think is just really too free of value and premium not to play. So if your opponent's Vanguard has triple drive, this can be played without paying the cost. And then you play this card with discard a card from your hand. If your Vanguard is a grade 3 or less, choose one of your units that cannot be hit until the end of the battle, and then you remove this card. So this card goes to the order zone. So the big thing about this is is the thing that like counters Zoa, is that it doesn't go to the Guardian Circle. So like your opponent can't say like no Sentinels from Guardian Circle because this goes to the order zone and then it beats it. So this like kind of helps you out your worst matchup, and that is like DP and other stuff too. That's not like removal based. So this card's really good. I definitely, if you do have the room to play it, and I think I recommend every deck play this. If they're not kind of like scrounging for a hand, but since we're Bigbelly, we see most of our deck anyway. You definitely want to play this card just because of how free it is. And then I think the most important card of this format is Relic. So again, like I said earlier in the video, Bigbelly, you know, wants to get to the late game, and so being able to survive the early game and a lot of like aggro pressure that a lot of decks put out right now in the meta is very important. So Rollock just kind of helps us live that, and the best part about it, it's another 10k shield. So when you're doing like your double spangle turns and stuff, you're drawing into 10k shields and not 5ks, which is huge. So it just lets you survive more generically, and lets you guaranteed survive early game and not lose to like random OTs and stuff in the early game, which is really nice. One of the triggers, 4 stride crit, 4 soul crits, and then 2 vanilla crits. If you really want to, you could play the overdress into soul crits. I have them, but I kind of prefer these with a particular card in our G zone, just because these make a little bit better numbers. But overall, 10 crits kind of the way you want to go, because like the direction we move now is more of a Rhino combo beatdown. And so just putting crits on the Rhino is the most important thing. So 10 crit, I think, is like a minimum for Bigbelly moving forward. One draw PG, if you really want to maximize your crits, you can make this the crit sentinel, but I still like the defensive draw and having if my opponent has a random card that says no grade 1s or higher, I still have an option for this just to be able to straight up guard. So it's really, really nice like that. Then 4 Heal Guardian. If you guys don't know what these do, these help you just live early. So if you haven't rolled it up to grade 3 yet this fight, you can guard with it, target one of your Vanguards, it gets 10k, or you can target a unit that your opponent controls and it gets -2 crit until the end of that battle. So the 10k is for the end of the turn, 2 crits to the end of that battle. It just helps you just not be aggroed out of the game. These cards are really important, and I think really fix a lot of issues for Premium and V. So thank you, Bushi, for printing these and reprinting these. So that way everyone has equal access to them. And then you love them, you hate them, one over trigger. I want these gone, but you know, they gave kind of Great Nature the cool one that's kind of an omni trigger. There's some good reason maybe to play the vanilla if you're scared about like the forced double draw on this offensively. This sometimes leads you into weird situations to deck out, but if you're managing your deck right, this kind of won't hurt you as bad. But this still is a good card to kind of like keep in mind of like, you know, is it still in my deck? Is it still in my deck? If I hit this, what happens? So just kind of keep math. But the fact that it's a heal, it's a front, and then it gives obviously something 100 million in a crit is crazy. So yeah. That concludes it for the main deck. Onto the G zone. 2 Clerigious. When I first saw this revealed, I thought this was going to change like the direction that the clan went completely, and then it kind of turned out being mid like the first couple of formats we had through the premium collection. But this card's still really good. For those that don't know what it's do, you just can flip a card face up in your G zone, and your front row gets 10k, and at the end of the turn you retire those rear guards. And then its other skill is when it attacks, you can counterblast 1. You choose one of your rear guards that has 30k or more power, counterblast 1, restand it, and then it gets triple door. So every time it attacks, your opponent has to guard with 3 or more cards from hand, and it's really good. Just to be able to combo with Rhino saying, hey, no zeros, also guard with 3 cards or more from hand every time you guard this. So if they have like a grade 1 PG, they have to go like grade 1, 2 more cards, and then pitch a card. So like ripping 4 cards out of their hand in the right situations is just really, really strong. So I still really like this card a lot, and definitely gave Great Nature a new way to generate pressure. 2 Mana Armor. When in doubt, just go into Mana Armor. Even though this like decks you in some situations like really fast, you just hit a lot of triggers, so then you're like, oh, like drive check 6 and do crazy. Still a really good card, and still a really awesome card to pair with to keep extending on Clerigious turns. And just be able to go crazy, just be able to call additional after you swung, call Crayon Tigers, and then have the boosters with those. You can do some really nifty plays. So Mana Garb is really good. But if you guys don't know what this does, it's kind of us one. You flip a card up from your G zone, and then you repeat this action 4 times of putting the top part of your deck into the drop zone, which is discarding now. If it's a normal unit, you give one of your units on the board 10k, and if it's a trigger unit, you give one of your you this gains a drive check. If you hit the Elementary Sanctitude, it's a blanket, does nothing, which sucks, but that's why we don't like to play a lot of orders in Great Nature. But the Elementary Sanctitude is too free and so rare that you probably hit it as it's not terrible. And his G-Zone skills, for one I was talking about, is comboing. If it's face up and my Vanguard attacks, you can Soul Blast one and just choose a card from your hand and call it to rear guard. One Septicom. This is like your fringe finisher, so what you can do is reverse stack your deck, so you can call cards from your hand over each other, which retire. And his first skill says, when a card's put in the drop zone from rear guard or deck, you can put it on the bottom of your deck instead. So what you can do is you have a bunch of triggers in hand, you can just call the triggers over each other, and then they all return to the deck. So like if you go down to like 2 cards in deck, start your turn, draw, you have 1. You can just reverse stack your deck, maybe put the OT back and stuff like that in that method. It's just really strong just to be able to kill like that, which has warranted me maybe potentially playing a second copy just because this is such a good finisher. But it's just really cool. And then his other skills, when your rear guard attacks, which is why you like the soul for this card, you Soul Blast 1, flip a card in your G-Zone face up, and you're able to give that unit 5k for every face-up card in your G-Zone, and at the end of that battle, you retire that unit, so it goes to the bottom of the deck. So again, really strong. One Bolaral. This card's still good. You can either go like late game, like after, like, you know, you try to push with a Septicom. This gives all your front row like big, massive numbers and good on hit pressure. Those that don't know what Bolaral does, Bolaral Soul Blast 1, you flip again, and you give all your units in the front row plus 4k for each card face up in your G-Zone, and when the attack hits once per turn, draw a card. So again, it's once per turn, so if you restand and like hit again with the same unit, they can't draw again, but it's still really good on hit pressure. So we still like Bolaral for that reason. It used to carry the clan on its back in the day. Okay, so now you're thinking of this and you're seeing a rare stride and you're going like, Devlin, what are you doing? But this card I saw in the BCS, was it the Malaysia list? I think it was the Malaysia list. That was the new card, and it was just really cool to see this because I immediately saw this and I was like, oh my god, this card's so good. Why don't I think of this? It was when this unit becomes successful, you can choose up to 5 or of your rear guards, and then you can give them resist, and at the end of the turn, retire this unit. So you can potentially just draw up to 5 off this card with the Bigbelly triggers, and then you draw a card if you chose 3 or more units. And then even though his success is 25k, it's really easy to hit off the if you have a Tester Fox and a Rhino on board, you can just pump the Rhino with the Tester Fox, and so then you hit his threshold and then are able to give the board all the free resist. So this helps you kind of be able to play against Norokami, Grand Blue, and some other the awkward like retire decks that just help you force your plays through while letting you draw cards at the end. One Fernigas. This is for like the floodgatey matchups, so like Link Joker and Mega Colony. This card is Counterblast 1, Soul Blast 1, GB3. When it's put back into the G-Zone, you choose all of your units and retire them, and you draw a card, countercharge, and soul charge 1 for each card. Then Bigbelly, you can choose optionally to draw an additional card for those cards retired. And then his skill on Vanguard Circle is he gets 4k for each of your rear guards. So this card's still pretty solid. And then this was the card I was talking about. So this was kind of like for the vanilla things and for the tokens. I still think the Cyclonid's valid. Really kind of no reason to play this card. We have the space in the G-Zone, so just being able to flip this and saying, hey, like the 2 vanillas I play are 10k boosters, and then the tokens I make are 10k boosters is just free value. So no reason not to play it. Wouldn't be something else I've gone and testing to say I wish it has. Zoa is sometimes in the fringe situations can just be the instant kill you need, so Zoa is still really good. Just being able to say, you know, Ultimate Stride, GB3, pretty much for this condition, kind of allows to draw a card, choose a card from your hand, call it, and then says, hey, they're called rear guard. If it deals you a damage, you lose the game. So just the pressure like that and being able to say no zeros, which is still a lot of your opponent's card value, is still pretty good, and it also makes the unit unretirable. For the G guards, 2 Spangled. If you're playing less than 2, you're dumb, because just being able to double the amount of cards that you put on Guardian Circle for this play is really good. So for those that don't know how this card works, it's GB1, of course, like all your flip G cards. Counterblast 1, you choose a face down card. You choose a face down G Guardian and flip it. And then when it enters the Guardian Circle, you can choose any of your grade 3 or less Guardians, and they get, when this is retired from Guardian Circle, you draw a card. So if you double Spangled, it gets that effect twice, so essentially doubling the amount of cards you spent. So like if I put 4 cards and then double Spangled, I draw 8. If I put like 6, it'd be 12, etc. So just really busted plays you can do once you start getting in those higher numbers. And 2, Ardillo. I'm missing my last SP. Forgive me that this deck's not max rarity at the moment, but he just allows you to combo with Bigbelly really well, being able to kill your cards during your opponent's battle phase to draw cards with Bigbelly. If you don't have access to the GB1 yet with Spangled, it's still really strong. And then again with the Token Lady, this card got even better. So definitely I would recommend playing this at least as a 2 of right now if you're playing the Token Lady in your Bigbelly list, because this card is just free 25k shield pop maker with being able to plus 2 cards, which is insane. Then we have one Zankalpa. This is just our big G guard. Counterblast 1, you choose a rear guard, and then for each of your open circles, you give that rear guard and your Vanguard plus 4k. And then if the rear guard's power is over 20, you get to draw a card. Fortunately, it's a forced draw. But if if you have no rear guard, you can still do the skill, because of Vanguard you perform much of the skill as possible. But this card's like our largest G guard we get. But you can definitely play, if you're kind of more the risky one, our new Omniscience Dragon that mills the top card. And if it's a normal unit, it gets plus 20k, which is 35k shield, which is nothing to scoff at. Or if it's a trigger unit, it's a G guard PG. So definitely both are viable. I just prefer Zankalpa because it's a little bit bigger shield. And then last but not least, Kundalini, just because I like being able to countercharge against during my opponent's turn. Select a rear guard. At the end phase of your opponent's turn, you'll pop it, and then Bigbelly lets you draw a card, and then this skill will give it the ability to countercharge if you popped it. So, and then it's 20k shield for the bird if you gave it the effect. So again, it's really good, niche situations. But again, you can play any kind of G guard you feel kind of in this slot. If it's like you want to play either Second Zankalpa or the Omniscience Dragon or the Almirage to call cards, just kind of your preference. I just found in testing right now that the Kundalini is probably the best. And then of course with this deck, more times than not, you just want to go Excel 2. But you know, still have your Excel 1s lying around if you're feeling that that's the best route. And then you know, have your tokens and your quick shield, and you are ready to go. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you guys likes and subscribe and do all that stuff as I try to give you guys the best content that I can. And definitely, if you're into Great Nature, that's my main clan and my mainstay of this channel. So definitely subscribe and keep up with all the builds, and let's talk. Go check out the Discord, the Twitter, all that good stuff will be in the link tree in the description. And I hope you guys have a wonderful day and a wonderful rest of your week. Take care.